Looking for a trusted supplier for all your household hardware needs? Look no further than Competitive Hardware Limited. We provide top quality building materials including cement, all types of iron sheets, paints, PPR and PVC pipes, electric pipes, building grills, BRC and square till in various sizes. Need interior and finishing materials? We've got you covered with gypsum rails, marine boards, ceiling boards and tanks of all sizes. For fencing, we stock barbed wire, chain link and wire mesh. And the best part, we offer free countrywide delivery with our fleet of transit trucks and pickups. Your order arrives on time, every time. Visit us in Kitengela along Namanga Highway, opposite 411 stage, or at our branches in Kitisuru and Busia. For enquiries, call us on 020-26-88-888 or 0733-666632 or 0721-923248. Competitive Hardware Limited, your reliable hardware supplier. Almarai Company, in collaboration with Competitive Manpower, is urgently hiring for the following exciting roles: Grade 1 mechanics, panel beaters, refrigeration technicians, lead mechanics, diesel plant mechanics, welders and stainless steel welders. Why apply? This is a free recruitment with no application or placement fees required. Contact us today on 0721 506627 or 0733 392180. You can also visit us at Waterseas Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available.
You're watching CBS News.
A very good morning to you, our viewers, wherever you are tuned in. Welcome to CBS News. This is the newspaper review, Wednesday being the July 16th of 2025. My name is Dennis MUNYI. I welcome you on board as we have a look at stories making headlines in our newspaper. Remember, you can engage with us at our social media platforms at CBS News Kenya. And this broadcast is coming to you live at YouTube in CBS News Kenya. Send in your comments and I'll surely read them through. And we go straight to our newspapers that we have today. And with me here is the Daily Nation. And the Daily Nation has a bold headline: Scandal of Stolen Free School Funds. The Daily Nation with a bold headline: Scandal of Stolen Free School Funds. And this is a story about how free school funds have been stolen in a fraudulent case that was revealed yesterday by Auditor General. And there is also a story on the Interior Cabinet. You will also see a picture of Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen during a brief media yesterday that happened at Harambee House, and he was basically giving an overview of the security situation of the country. In the Daily Nation, we also have the story of the lady Juliana who was killed, whereby the pathologists have requested for more time to conduct post-mortem on her body. We'll also have a look at that story. And there is also a story on Fahima Abdallah, the new IEBC vice chairperson, who is now the youngest woman to become the first vice chairperson of the IEBC. We'll also have a look at that story that has been given headline in our Daily Nation. And on sports news, we have Kibet, who has now joined Spain's Celta de Vigo B team on a 4-year deal, and we'll be looking at that Kenyan who is now joining the La Liga team by the name Celta Vigo. And we go straight to page 2 of the Daily Nation, whereby there is report of 133,000 children who now are being said to have missed key vaccines, as coverage fails. New report says. The new report has now revealed that a total of 133,000 children a number of children that have missed key vaccines, and this staggering 133,000 Kenyan children are people who have missed out on essential routine vaccinations in 2024, according to a new World Health Organization report that was released yesterday. And the data that was released in collaboration with UNICEF, it is a data that was released by the World Health Organization, commonly known as WHO, in collaboration with UNICEF. And the data shows that while vaccination coverage has improved in worldwide, that is in Kenya, while the number of vaccination coverage has improved, Kenya is now having a report of 4.7% of zero-dose children out of 100% of children who are expected to be vaccinated. 4.7%, according to this report, are a number of people who have not received vaccination, and that is how it is totaling to 133,000. And these 133,000 children who have not received the vaccination is a drastic increase from 90,000 unvaccinated children in 2023. So it has increased from 90,000 in 2023, the number of children who had not been vaccinated. And now it is on the rise with a total of 133,000 children. It's nice to note that of the 14 vaccines that children are expected to be vaccinated, these 133,000 children have not received any vaccination, and a total of 178,000 children are those who missed their first dose of measles vaccination. Remember, a few weeks ago, the government rolled out a vaccination for the measles, and you remember in 2023, in 2019, during the COVID-19, majority of children failed to get the vaccination, and that's why there was a rollout on the government to vaccinate the measles vaccination. And that story, you'll find it in page 2 of the Daily Nation, that talks about a total number of 133,000 children missing key vaccines in a report that was released yesterday. And moving on, in page 3, we find a story of the new vice chairperson by the name Fahima Abdallah. And now Fahima Abdallah has become the first woman and the first youngest vice chairperson to serve in the IEBC commission. And now the Daily Nation is reporting that Fahima Abdallah is not the first time she has broken such kind of records, and the Daily Nation is naming her as a woman of many firsts. And we look at Fahima Arabat Abdallah, who is Fahima Abdallah, the new vice chairperson of the IEBC. Fahima Arabat Abdallah first was brought up at a village known as Shela on Lamu Island, and now she is the first vice chairperson of the IEBC. She was born in 1992, and she comes from the Swahili Bajuni community. That's a group that is historically represented in national leadership. You do not hear this community much in the national leadership, but now this Fahima Abdallah, she has broken the record to become the first chairperson to come out of that community. And the Daily Nation reports how in a society where early marriages and domestic roles have become norm, where she has been brought up, it's a society whereby early marriages are evident very much in her society. And at 32, she has become one of the person who is occupying such a top seat in our nation. And her appointment to the IEBC was announced last week on Friday following a plenary meeting at the commission headquarters, and it's the first major internal appointment since Chief Justice Martha Koome saw in the IEBC leadership being led by Chairperson Edcon and other commissioners. And Madam Abdallah is not the first time making headlines. In 2013, when she was about just 21 years, She was nominated by the then Lamu governor by the name Isa Timami, and she was appointed as Shelawad administrator, and she became the youngest person that to occupy that position in Lamu. At 21, she was nominated by Lamu governor Isa Timami in 2013 to hold the position of administrator in Shelawad. And when Governor Fahim Yassin Twaha took office in 2017 after defeating Timami, she was also nominated and promoted to the position of County Executive Committee member at just 24. Now she became a member of the County Executive Committee. And over the past, after 5 years later, she headed various critical departments such as lands. She has been in Department of Lands, Infrastructure, Tourism, Investment, Finance, and Agriculture, and many others. It is good to note that Fahima, the new IBC Vice Chairperson, has also served on the Lamu County Assembly Service Board, and she has been in various capacities. And while she was speaking to the Daily Nation, she expressed her heartfelt gratitude for what she has become, attributing it to God's blessings. And Fahima Abdallah is now the first vice chairperson who is the youngest even in the IEBC Commission. That story, you will find it in page 3. And when you look at the same page, we see also a story on how the PSC has begun the process of hiring registrar of political parties. Remember the one who was heading as the registrar of political parties, MS Derito. She was nominated to be one of the commissioners of the IEBC. And now the PSC, the Public Service Commission, has now started the process of hiring a new registrar of political parties to replace Madam Ann Derito, who has taken up the role of the commissioner in the IEBC. And Madam Derito, who was the current registrar of political parties, is among the 7 new IEBC commissioners that assumed office earlier last week. And the office of registrar political parties is a very critical institution, and with the 2027 general election about 2 years away, the office is essential for political players seeking key roles in the forthcoming electoral process. And that is why the PSC has begun the process of hiring a new registrar of parties to replace Nderito, who was nominated to serve as a commissioner in the IEBC Commission. And we move on to page 4 and page 5. That story of Ann Derito and the PSC, you will find it in page 3 of the Daily Nation. We move on to page 4 and page 5, whereby we see there is an audit that has revealed loss of billions in fraud involving ghost schools. This is a story that has been given headline, and now details are emerging that there has been schools, ghost schools, that have been receiving billions of money and these schools, which according to a report that was revealed yesterday by Auditor General Nancy Gathongo in a special audit on capitation and infrastructure. She revealed yesterday that a number of 33 schools are ghost schools that have been receiving money from the government, a total of 3.7 billion Kenyan shillings. This is the amount of money that was disbursed to 33 ghost schools. A shocking revelation that was revealed yesterday by the Auditor General, that there have been 33 non-existent schools. I'm talking about 33 non-existent schools that do not exist, that have been up to the information that was released yesterday by the Auditor General by the name Nancy Gathongo, that a total of 3.7 billion has been lost to these schools that have been receiving capitation, and a total of 14 schools schools that were created, data was created and they do not exist, and data was entered and they received funds from the government. This is a fraud that was revealed yesterday by the Auditor General by the name Nancy Gathongo. And while she was presenting the special audit before the committee, the director of audit in the office of the Auditor General, Bwana Justus Okumu, he said that some schools had fraudulently received 3.7 billion capitation, as genuine ones struggle to remain open due to a biting cash crunch. Yesterday we saw in the Daily Nation whereby the head of teachers and the principals were complaining that funds are not being released in time and that institutions and their schools are at the verge of collapsing due to lack of funds. And yesterday now a new information is emerging that a total of 3.7 billion Kenyan shillings have been lost in a fraud involving 33 ghost schools. And the fraud that was executed between the financial year 2020, 2021 and 2023, 2024 was revealed, and it was emerging that public schools that have remained unfunded as at 2024, 71 billion Kenyan shillings have not been funded to junior schools, and 31.9 billion Kenyan shillings have not been funded to primary schools, and even a total of 67.1 million have not been funded for the secondary schools and special needs of education. And now this audit that has faulted the capitation model used to disburse the funds, and in that audit the Auditor General has termed the new model that has been used to offer capitation as not equitable. And the special audit has revealed that the current allocation per learner has been based on the funding model and does not factor in the varying needs and circumstances of students and school. And the Public Account Committee yesterday directed the office of the Auditor General to table details of the ghost schools that benefited from the fraudulent remittances. And the audit has challenged the National Assembly to tighten the monitoring of funds sent to schools. It has raised concerns over the mix of funds. That is a shocking revelation that was revealed yesterday by the Auditor General, where she was claiming that a total of 3.7 billion Kenyan shillings have been lost in a fraud case that has been involving 33 ghost schools. These are schools that have been receiving funds that cannot be accounted. Yet some of the institutions are crying forth that they have not received money, and situations at such in some of the schools is at the verge of collapsing. And we move on to page 5 of the Daily Nation, whereby now the HELB chief Monari has said that 163,000 students have missed loans due to cash constraints. And the HELB chief by the name Monari has now said that a total of 163,408 eligible students in public universities and technical schools have missed government funding after HELB ran out of cash. These are students, remember, they are students who depend on HELB, and now the chief for HELB is saying that a total of 163,000 students who are eligible to apply for HELB are now being said that they are at the verge of not getting money after they missed loans after cash constraints that was witnessed by HELB. And now the students are now facing uncertainty in their future, even as the academic year continues, which will be beginning in August. And the inadequate financing has set them up for challenges, and now they will be forced to seek alternative funding for tuition, accommodation, and upkeep. Remember, majority of students depend on HELB. They depend on the higher education loan funding for them to survive. But now a total of over 163,000 students will now not get their HELB loans because of cash constraints. And while the chief executive for HELB, Bwana Geoffrey Monari, was tabling his report to the National Assembly Committee on Education yesterday, he said that the agency is having a shortfall of 11.5 billion to fund the university students. These are students who are in university and TVET institutions who have applied for help and have qualified for funding, and now the chief for help is saying that they require at least additional 2.2 billion to allocate the help funds to university and TVET students. And Chief Monari was saying that they during the financial year that is under review, help received during the past financial year, help was able to receive 713,173 applications, but now they could not fund at least 322,338 university students and about a total of about 225,000 TVET students. They could not be able to fund them because of cash constraints. That story, you will find it in page 5 of the Daily Nation. And moving on to other stories, in page 6 you'll find that an autopsy on the youth that was killed by the name Julia Wangoi. You remember Julia Wangoi we've been talking about, and now the post-mortem examination that was conducted yesterday, the autopsy has now the autopsy was not concluded because of the pathologist requested 2 weeks to undertake further analysis. And although the 3 pathologists that conducted the investigation confirmed that the bleeding in her brain that did not have not yet appeared, and that they said they need additional 2 weeks for them to conclude the matter. And quoting what they had to say, the medics that were doing the autopsy, they say that we do not see direct injury to the hand. Therefore, we suspect the bleeding could have been caused by something other than trauma. Remember, Julia Wangoi is a 24-year-old girl who died at Nanyuki Women's Prison when she was arrested during the Sabasaba protest, and the post-mortem was being conducted yesterday. But now the medics have requested that they may be given another extra 2 weeks for them to conclude on the matter. That story is in page 6 of the Daily Nation. And we continue with page 7, whereby we see the CS for Interior, Bwana Murkomen, stating that yesterday during a press conference that he had yesterday, now he is saying that there are politicians that are being probed over deadly protest. And in his statement yesterday, he said that senior politicians in the ruling alliance are among the 121 individuals that are being investigated for allegedly financing the violence that was witnessed in the June 25 and July 7 protest. And the Interior for Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has said that these lawmakers and members of the county assemblies that are part of those that are being said to have financed the protests that happened in June 25 and during the Sabasaba protest. And now Mr. Murkomen also revealed that that at least 1,500 people have been arrested, and that 1,500 people have been arrested countrywide, and now they are facing charges regarding to terrorism, murder, robbery with violence, sexual assault, and arson, amongst other malicious damage to property claims. And now who was saying that out of the 1,500 people that have been arrested, over these 50 individuals are being investigated by the Serious Crime Unit, while 71 cases are being handled by Anti-Terrorism Police Unit for offenses they are being named as being related to acts of terrorism. And sources in the Ministry of Interior have confirmed to the Daily Nation that 3 senior UDA politicians and the business associates that are associated with the government are among those that have been questioned over the funding of the demonstrations. And Mr. Murkomen was saying that the chaos that were witnessed in the July 7th and the June 25th demonstration. He was saying that they were not organic and that there are politicians who have been charged with terrorism for funding these protests. And the minister detailed how these gangs and these looters and anarchists unleashed what he described as raw and unprecedented terror. And in his own words, he was saying, on these 2 days, marauding gangs of looters and anarchists broke into private businesses in many parts of the country, and many individuals and families were left into poverty. And now Murkomen has also revealed that the violence claimed a total of 42 lives, while at least 600 people were injured. And the CS was saying that out of the 600 people that were injured, among them 496 are police officers who had been deployed to contain the chaos. And in his own words, he was saying this is unacceptable. One life lost is one too many. We mourn every life lost and extend our deepest sympathies and heartfelt condolences to the affected families, to those who suffered injury, loss, and trauma on those 2 fateful days. And however, these figures that he was talking about, that 42 lives were lost, they contradict with the figures that were issued by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights that had indicated that 57 people died during the protest. And the commission also said that that 19 of them died on June 25th, while 38 lost their lives on July 7th, and majority of them have reported to have died out of gunshot wounds. But according to the CS in his report that he issued yesterday, 42 are the number of people who have died during the protest, and that is according to Kipchumba Murkomen, the Interior Cabinet Secretary. But according to the data that was released by KNCHR, the Kenyan National Human Rights, it was saying that a total number of 57 people are the number of people that were killed during the June and the July protest. And we move on to page 8 and page 9 of the Daily Nation, whereby now the Senate has refused to assent and all to pass the motion that seeks to regulate the anti-graft law. And the lawmakers are now opposing 2 key amendments that are in the contentious conflict of interest bill in 2023. Remember this bill that was passed by the National Assembly. The president refused to assent it into becoming law after he said that the bill should be taken back to the Senate for review. And now the bill, which seeks to put in place radical sanctions to discourage public officials from doing business with government to amass wealth. That is, the bill is seeking to amend and put into place reforms that seeks to sanction and discourage public officials from doing business with government and amass wealth. But then now the Senate is having an uneasy time with this anti-graft push, and now they have been saying that this anti-graft bill should not be passed. That story, you'll find it in page 9 of the Daily Nation. We move on to page 10 of the Daily Nation, whereby we see a story of how the president is quietly building his 2027 re-election plan. And in a story that has been well outlined in page 10 of the Daily Nation, it talks about the mechanisms that the president is doing to ensure that the 2027 general elections, that he does not lose the 2027 general election and that he is re-elected back. And looking at what has been happening, we've seen the now deputy president, Professor Kithure Kindiki, going and doing what they are calling as empowerment economic forums. And now the Daily Nation is reporting that this is a plan by the president to ensure that by 2027 he is able to be re-elected. And while he was speaking yesterday, the deputy president said that there are plans to ensure that the president, together with Raila Odinga, team up for them to ensure that they get back into office. That is the story that is in page 10. How the president is now doing something quietly to build his 2027 re-election plan. And moving on to page 11 of the Daily Nation, we see whereby the NMG Forum to boost youth digital skills happened yesterday, where 100 of youth participated and other government officials, academics and other private sector attended the Skill Up Africa 2025 forum that was dedicated to equipping young people with digital skills and unlocking opportunities in the fast evolving world. And under the theme that was being known as the youth empowerment through AI and digital skills, this forum was able to bring together students, recent graduates, entrepreneurship and private sectors leaders. And despite their academic achievements, many young Kenyans have remained jobless, and the digital skills powered by AI are increasingly and a gateway to self-employment, innovation and economic independence. That story, you will find it in page 11 of the Daily Nation. We move on to page 12 of the Daily Nation, whereby a farm has filed for 53 billion payout in the 58-year-old land with the state. And now witnesses have taken to the stand, some more than once, and they have been making a fresh chapter in Nairobi's long-running courtroom land saga in its 58th year. This is a family that has been that has filed a case over for 53 billion payout in a 58-year-old land row with the state. That story is in page 12 of the Daily Nation. And we move on to business news. No, sorry, before we move on to business news, we have a look at stories making headlines in the counties. And it is in page 17 of the Daily Nation, whereby now mining more than 500 households have been displaced in Kerio Valley, and they are demanding compensation even as the British company prepares to pump 4.8 billion in the revival of the Kenya Frost Company. And now the mining revival has sparked new calls for compensation. These families are now saying that the government should compensate them. That story is in the county news in page 17 of the Daily Nation. We move on to sports news in the Daily Nation, whereby we see a story of Kibet. Kibet is a Kenyan teenager football sensation by the name Alden Kibot. He is now, it's good news for the Kenyan-based footballer who is now eagerly waiting to move to the Spanish La Liga side Celta Vigo's in a contract that was signed yesterday for 4 years. And according to Kibet's father, Christopher Komen, the 18-year-old attacking midfielder has signed a 4-year contract with the Real Club Celta Vigo in the Celta Vigo B team. And people we saw yesterday, whereby there are celebrations and ululations after the 18-year-old Adrian Kibet was nominated to go and participate in tournament at La Liga in a team known as Celta Vigo. Good luck to Aldrin Kibet as he continues to represent Team Kenya. There is also a story about Nairobi United, how it's engaging in preparations in the Premier League, having been promoted after beating Gor Mahia in a 2-1 match that was played in the Mozart Bet FKF Cup final. And now the Nairobi United team is preparing for a new life in the Kenyan Premier League. There is also a story about a Kenyan's youngest chess master, how this Kenyan chess history has once been rewritten, and by the 13-year-old Jadon Simiyu. That story and many others you'll find in the Daily Nation. We take a short commercial break, and when we resume, we'll be having a look at what we have in our standard newspaper. Remember, you can keep the conversation going and engage with us at CBS News Kenya. My name is Dennis MUNYI. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Team at AYTB, in partnership with Competitive Manpower, AYTB is seeking qualified candidates for the following positions: Technical Advisor, QA or QC Personnel, Shop Coordinator, Report Organizer, Rotating Equipment Repair Technician, Valve Overhaul Technician, Machining Technician. Contact us today on 0721 5066
27 or 0733392180. You can also visit us at Waterseas Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available. Competitive Manpower International Limited is recruiting delivery riders in the United Arab Emirates. If you have a passion for the road and a desire to work in a fast-paced environment, then this is your chance. Don't wait. Send your applications to competitivemanpower@gmail.com. Want to apply in person? Visit our offices at Kiko Road behind the Casa Hotel, KCB River Road, Nairobi. For more details, call us now on 0721 506627 or 0733 392180. Act fast, opportunities are limited. Secure your spot today and start your journey as a delivery rider in the United Arab Emirates.
Welcome to Competitive Training Institute, empowering you with in-demand skills. At Competitive Training Institute, we equip you with practical, job-ready skills that open doors both locally and internationally. Whether you're aiming to become a qualified caregiver, certified plumber, skilled automotive mechanic, or want to learn a foreign language like French, Arabic, or German, and many more, we've got the right course for you. Our hands-on training, guided by experienced instructors and aligned with market demands, ensures you're ready to compete and succeed in today's job market. We don't just train, we help you get hired. Our job placement team supports you in finding meaningful work after graduation. We are proudly accredited by NITA, ensuring high standards in all we offer. Ready to begin? Call us on 020-200-192. or 0721-223081, or email us at competitivetraining@gmail.com. Your journey starts here. Let's build your future together.
You're watching CBS News.
Welcome back, our viewers at the CBS News. We continue with our newspaper review, and with me here is the Standard newspaper. The Standard newspaper has a bold headline, Reign of Anarchy. The Standard newspaper with a bold headline, Reign of Anarchy. And in the Standard newspaper, you'll see two photos. A photo of Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen and a photo of President William Ruto, an angry president, and also a photo of protesters throwing stones, and also a photo of businesses that were looted, and also houses that were burnt during the demonstrations. That is the Standard newspaper having a headline, Reign of Anarchy, and 42 numbers talking about how the CS yesterday said that 42 number of people who were killed on June 25th and July 7th of demonstration, and the CS also talking about 600 people who are injured in the protest, and with the CS claiming that out of the 600 of them, 496 are police officers, and the CS also talking about 1,500 of people that have been arrested by now for the demonstrations. And we go straight to page 2 of the Standard newspaper, whereby we see a story of how the court has declared that the takeover by the state of a school by the name Gatoto School in Mukuru was illegal. And now the High Court in Nairobi has ruled that the government's attempt to reclassify Gatoto Community Primary School in Mukuru kwa Ruben as a public institution was unconstitutional, and now the court said that it was illegal and it was a breach of the Basic Education Act. And in a judgment that was delivered yesterday by the High Court by Justice Bahati MUNYI, he declared that the gazettement by the government that Gatoto was a public school is illegal, and now he has said that Gatoto remains a private non-profit institution operating under alternative provision of basic education and training. That is a story that we find in page 2, whereby the High Court, through Justice Chacha Mwita, declared that Gatoto School, that is in Mukuru kwa Ruben, is not a public institution, and that the gazettement by the government that Gatoto School is a public institution was illegal. That story, you'll find it in page 2 of the Standard newspaper. We move on to page 3, whereby there is a story of how an officer shot senior detective's son walking home on Sabasaba Day. And the 23-year-old by the name James Wambogo was shot during the Sabasaba protest. And now the Standard recalls the unfortunate event whereby it was a regular day for James Wambogo, who was heading to school in Nanyuki, and he was a Form 3-year-old student, and he was returning to school after a long academic break that followed a traumatic and fatal attack in 2022. But now the story is being shared of how this officer shot the senior detective's son while walking home on Sabasaba Day, and that story is very much outlined the consequences of events that happened, whereby 23-year-old James Wambogo Gashara was heading home, but rather was killed by a police person during the Sabasaba protest. That story is in page 3 of the Standard newspaper. To page 4 of the Standard newspaper, whereby we see the story we saw in the Daily Nation of how ghost students and schools have now stolen a total of 3.7 billion Kenyan shillings in a fraud that was revealed yesterday. And the Auditor General by the name Nancy Gadhungu has now exposed how government disbursed billions of shillings to ghost students in capitation to non-existent schools for 4 financial years from 2020 to 2024. The Auditor General revealed that the government released or disbursed a total of 3.7 billion Kenyan shillings as capitation funds to schools that are non-existent, or rather ghost schools. And in a special report that was tabled yesterday before the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee, Nancy Gadhungu revealed that in 723 schools, 3.7 billion in capitation was lost and was issued to 33 non-existent schools, and 83 schools received capitation with a tune of 25.59 million. And I quote what she said yesterday while she was issuing a statement. She said that the ghost schools are in the system, but when we went to the ground, we did not find them. So they are getting capitation, but education of could not show us where they exist. And now the special report on capitation and infrastructure in schools is now showing a comparison of the number of students that have been registered in NEMIS, and individuals sampled school student registers has now established that the number of students registered in NEMIS now differs with those that were that money was allocated for them. And it's very unfortunate that the public schools, and yesterday we saw in the newspaper in the newspaper yesterday that we were reading, whereby the heads of schools and institutions, where the principals are saying that the money has not yet been dispersed to their institutions, and that their institutions are at the verge of collapsing. And now the Auditor General is now revealing that a total of 3.7 billion Kenyan shillings have been lost. We will be following up on the story story to see whether the investigation will be carried out and whether that money will be accounted for. We move on to page 5 of the Standard newspaper, whereby now there is a story that HELB is now saying that there is a deficit of funds and that now a total of 160,000 students have been locked out from HELB funding, and more than 500,000 of universities and TVET institutions and students have been eligible to acquire HELB in the 2024-2025 financial year. But now it is a shock to them because they will not receive any money due to budget shortfall. And the HELB Chief Executive Officer by the name Geoffrey Munari, while talking to the National Assembly yesterday, he revealed that 713,173 students had applied for this funding and had met the requirement that was required. However, he is saying that the HELB can only disburse only 26.1 billion to the 322,000 university students, and now a total of 103,214 eligible students will now not get those funds due to a 11.5 billion shortfall. And for TVET trainings, that is a 7.9 billion that was dispersed to 225,000 students, but only 60,000 applicants were able to miss out, creating an additional gap to 2.2 billion Kenyan shillings. It's very unfortunate that these students, their fate remains in uncertainty, as the HELB Chief Executive Officer is revealing that deficit of funds might make them lock out over 160,000 students from accessing this HELB. Remember, these are students who have qualified and depend on this HELB for them to continue with their education. That story is in page 5 in the Standard newspaper. We move on to page 6 of the Standard newspaper, whereby we see there is a story about Kenya's rapid stride into anarchy, the story that has been given headline, and whereby the Standard is talking about the wave of perceived state-enabled lawlessness for political expediencies, which is very increasing day in, day out in our country. And with just 2 years to the general elections, there is fear that is mounting, because we've witnessed violence, we've witnessed police using excessive force, violence being unleashed in broad daylight, businesses looted, health facilities attacked. We saw it during the demonstration, during the Saba demonstration. We saw violence being unleashed even in broad daylight. We saw businesses being looted, whereby supermarkets were torched and burnt down. We saw even our properties being destroyed. We saw even health facilities being attacked. We also saw civilians being brutalized. And now the Standard is talking about the rapid slide into anarchy that has led to rise of fear of violence in 2027. Remember, we are just 2 years to the general election, and the kind of violence that we have seen with the government, even though the government is claiming that it knows the top organizers and those are planning for the violence, this is very alarming. And we've seen even video footages of people and police officers using excessive force. And now the Standard is warning of a possible slide into anarchy come 2027, and they're talking about whereby we should be careful because there might be a violence in 2027 if things continue the way they are. And we will see a photo of, in page 6, a photo of a worker in Western supermarket who was giving his own view after the supermarket was torched down during the Saba demonstrations. We move on to page 7 of the Standard newspaper, whereby there are experts who have been linked to protest violence to 2027. And now it is being argued that massive violence and looting in anti-government protest is an organic eruption of anger against President William Ruto's government. And while others have been saying that it is a clash between angry, hungry, poor, unemployed youth and wealthy business people, scholars and historians are now saying that they disagree, and they are arguing that well-organized, choreographed violence that is aiming to create fear and animosity among voters. And now it is being alleged that the current regime and its supporters are using old playbook that was applied by the KANU regime, and that there is a growing fear that violence is being escalated to more alarming levels, even as the country is heading to the 2027 general election. That story, you'll find it in page 7 of the Standard newspaper. We move on to page 8 of the Standard newspaper, whereby we see the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen now saying that the judiciary is the one to be blamed over what he termed as lenient bail terms granted to suspects who were arrested during the recent anti-government protest. And he has been saying that a key number figures of demonstrators who were killed by police, and he was citing a case of 2 suspects who were accused of storming Kitengela Sub-County Hospital, whereby the CS was now questioning on why they were released on a cash bail of 50,000. And I quote what he was saying, that he was saying that these lenient bail terms are unacceptable. And Murkomen has claimed that the police has recorded 42 deaths and 600 injuries. And he was saying that during the June 25th and the July 7th demonstrations, a total of 42 deaths were reported and 600 injuries were reported, with 496 of them being police officers. However, this data is not siding with what was issued by the Kenya KNHCR, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which documented 19 deaths on June 25th and June 28th and the July 7th. That is, they were saying that a total of 57 people were reported to have died during the 2 protests, while the CS is saying that 42 people is the number of people that were reported dead. And the CS has said that the government is intensifying its investigation on the matter. That story, you'll find it in page 8 of the Standard newspaper. We move on to page 9, whereby IPRA is now under fire of a sharp rise in fuel prices. And the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, commonly known as IPRA, on Monday, they increased fuel prices by steep margins, resulting in pump prices reaching to the highest point since September last year. And now the cost of super petrol is currently now at 8.99 Kenyan shillings a litre, while diesel is at 8.67 and kerosene at 9.65 Kenyan shillings. And this is expected, the rise of these fuel prices is expected to have a major effect to other commodities, because the cost of transport, food and manufactured goods is likely to go up. That story, you find it in page 9 of the Standard newspaper. We move on to page 10 of the Standard newspaper, whereby now former Senator Oroba is now expected to pay Senate clerk 11.5 million as a result of damages. And Oroba has been very vocal in social media posts, and there was a post she posted about accusing the clerk of the Senate of sexual harassment with ill intent. And now the court has ordered former nominated Senator Gloria Oroba to pay the Senate clerk by the name Jeremiah Nyagenye 11.5 million for damages of defamation. And in a judgment that was delivered yesterday by the Milimani Commercial Court, Ruguru Ngodho, the court found that Oroba had made a series of defamatory, malicious and unsubstantiated posts about Nyagenye, who is the secretary to the Parliamentary Service Commission. And on her social media platform, that is WhatsApp, Facebook and X, the former nominated Senator Orwaba was making those sentiments that have been found to be defamatory. And now she has been ordered to pay the Senate clerk 11.5 million Kenyan shillings. However, she has said she'll be going to court to challenge that petition. And we move on to page. We move on to, on the same page. Before we move on to the next page, we see a story of how covered up crimes of civil society have detailed Sabasaba crackdown as horror. And the civil society groups under the police reforms working group, they have now accused the state operatives of running a covert crackdown during the Sabasaba protest. That story, you will find it in page 10 of the Standard newspaper. We move on to page 14, whereby we see the story of the Wajir woman representative who was on record saying that they are going to steal the general election in 2027. And in a country where elections are often marred by suspicion, violence, and irregularities, it is now not surprising to hear such a legislature boasting openly about plans to commit electoral fraud. And the Wajir woman representative by the name Fatuma Jeho that was on record saying that we will still vote for President William Ruto, and there is no secret, and it's not merely an offhand joke, because a reckless statement made by such a member of parliament is to reckon and is not a joke, and it's very reckless. That story, you'll find it in page 14 of the Standard newspaper. We move on to page 16, whereby now the police are hunting a suspect who is believed to have been strung a 5-school girl student in Siaya. And the Form 3 student, who was a student at Sagam Secondary School, went missing after retiring to bed at her brother's house on the night of May 2025. And the family, through its normal nights, was cheerful and eager to attend school the next day. However, when she failed to turn up for breakfast, the concern grew. And that story is being told of how the police are hunting the suspect behind the stringing of a 5-year-old school girl who was murdered in Siaya County. That story is in page 16 of the Standard newspaper. We move on to page 20 of the Standard newspaper, whereby it's reporting that Syria forces advance on Sweden as Drazo leader Tse talks on. And now the Syrian government forces have advanced to the southern city of Sweden on Monday to quell deadly clashes between Druze fighters and Bedouin tribes. That story is in page 20 of the Standard newspaper. And we finish with the sports news that have been given headline in the Standard newspaper, and it's the story of Adrian Kibet, and it is talking about, it is Adrian Kibet's moment after the Kenya under-20 star by the name Adrian Kibet is now hoping to live his dream, being a professional footballer, and he has risen to many ranks, with the recent now being his coach by Celta Vigo B team. And now he was so happy that he is now participating as a professional footballer. That story is the one that brings us to the end of the review of the Standard newspaper. We take a short commercial break. We will be back with the Business Daily and the Taifa Leo. Remember, you can keep the conversation going at our social media platforms, and you can watch this broadcast that is coming to you live in YouTube at CBS News Kenya. Stay tuned. We'll be back after the short commercial break.
You're watching CBS News.
Join our team at AYTB in partnership with Competitive Manpower. AYTB is seeking qualified candidates for the following positions: Technical Advisor, QA or QC Personnel, Shop Coordinator, Report Organizer, Rotating Equipment Repair Technician, Valve Overhaul Technician, Machining Technician,
Contact us today on 0721 506627 or 0733 392180. You can also visit us at Waterseas Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available.
Competitive Manpower International Limited is recruiting delivery riders in the United Arab Emirates. If you have a passion for the road and a desire to work in a fast-paced environment, then this is your chance. Don't wait. Send your applications to competitivemanpower@gmail.com. Want to apply in person? Visit our offices at Kiko Road behind the Casa Hotel, KCB River Road, Nairobi. For more details, call us now on 0721 506627 or 0733 392180. Act. First opportunities are limited. Secure your spot today and start your journey as a delivery rider in the United Arab Emirates.
You're watching CBS News.
Welcome back to our newspaper review. We continue with the Business Daily. And the Business Daily is talking about how the state is seeking home buyers' identity in illicit cash fight. And now the Kenya Financial Crime is now investigating a crackdown on anonymous home and land purchase that was witnessed in a closed loophole that has allowed corrupt business people and other criminals to hide ill-gotten in real estate, whereby their criminals were now hiding in real estate. And the Financial Reporting Center has now revealed that a total number of $15,000, that is 1.94 million, is a flag suspicious transaction that was witnessed in a case that is now being sought out by the state to seek the home buyer's identity in an illicit cash fight. And there is also a story on how the ministry is planning to digitize IDs for e-commerce traders in a move to curb fraud cases. And there is also a story of how Coop Bank boss has made an additional 202 million stake. We'll also be having a look at Umeme stock fall after interim dividend cutoff. And we move on to page 2 of the Business Daily. And the Business Daily is talking about the state. It has started a crackdown on real estate money laundering, and the anti-corruption body is now investigating a fraud and now cracking down on a fraud that was witnessed in a real estate money laundering case. And they are now investigating on the matter to find out why a huge amount of money accumulating up to 1.94 million was used to in a crack on money laundering. And we also look the story, the Business Daily on the same page talks about Devki, the tycoon who the national cement commonly known as Simba Cement Tycoon, has expanded through acquisition and construction of new cement places. That story, you'll find it in page 2 of the Business Daily. And now we go to page 3, whereby farms can now tap overpaid taxes to each cash flow woes. And now the reduction and delay in spending decisions by households and businesses with high interest rate have now come to an end, after now farms have been allowed to tap overpaid taxes to ease cash flow woes. That story, you'll find it in page 3 of the Business Daily. We move on to page 4, whereby MPs are now questioning billions owed to private universities. And the University Fund yesterday had a hard time to explain how sharp discrepancies in figures that were presented to Parliament regarding pending bills owed to private universities. And now the University Fund Executive Officer Edwin Onyaji was claiming that the state agency owes private universities a total of 65.5 billion Kenyan shillings, and that is a significant deviation from the previous 48.8 billion cited by the Kenya Association of Private Universities in its submissions to Parliament Committee last month. And now the members of the National Assembly Committee on Education, they were frustrated and they have demanded clarity over the conflicting figures, particularly the reports that were seen by the Auditor General indicating that the university funding had overfunded private institutions by over 300 million Kenyan shillings during the 7 years. And I quote what she was saying: CEO, if you have an over disbursement, how will you have a balance if you want the government to pay 49 billion? It has already overpaid. And the committee chairman, MP Julius Meli, was asking those questions to the Auditor General, who revealed that now there was excess money that was paid to private universities. And in the same page, we see details that have revealed that 163,000 students will not receive HELB funding. The same story we've seen in the Standard and the Daily Nation. And there is a story in page 5 whereby the state is planning on digital IDs for e-commerce traders. And now e-commerce traders in Kenya will now be required to have a unique digital ID identification number, that is a new ID. And the effort, the reason as to why they will be required, it is an effort to enhance surveillance and policing of transactions in the fast growing business segment. And now the Ministry of Investments, Trade Industry and the trade industry have said that there is a plan to ensure that the national e-commerce is integrated with new digital IDs to help curb fraud cases in the e-commerce business. That story is in page 5 of the Business Daily. We move on to page 6, whereby the Cooperative Bank of Kenya is now said to have added 202 million extra stake. And the Kenya Chief Executive Officer for the Cooperative Bank of Kenya, by the name Gideon Muriuki, he is said to have acquired 12 million shares in the bank that are now being valued at 202.8 million in the first 5 months of the year. And regulatory filings for the May 2025 showed that Mr. Muriuki has now raised his holding in the bank to 29,053 million shares. That is the story you will find in page 6 of the Business Daily. We move on to page 7, whereby we see Umeme stock has fallen after interim dividend cutoff. And the former Ugandan power distributor known as Umeme stock, it has now shed 23.5% as per yesterday at the Nairobi Bourse after the company was closed and its book on 222 Ugandan shillings per shared interest. That story, you will find it in page 7 of the Business Daily. We move on to page 8, whereby advisors have now booked 646 million in Talanta board deal. And now it is now emerging that professional firms have engaged in the restricted public offer of the Talanta Sports City Stadium, and they have bagged infrastructure board bucket with over 646 million Kenyan shillings in fees as per disclosures in the offering memorandum. That story, you'll find it in page 8 of the Business Daily. We move on to page 12 of the Business Daily, whereby the youth are being said that they are the engine of the nation's progress in the digital sector. And this is according to Honorable Dr. Alfred Mutua, who was saying that the youth are now the engine of the nation's progress in the digital sector and the architects of its future. That story is in page 12 of the Business Daily. And we move on to page to page 14, whereby there has been a call by the Kenya Manufacturing Center calling upon the youth to venture into manufacturing. And he was saying that not only does manufacturing generate new employment opportunities, but it also builds on existing ones through backwards interrogation with other sectors such as agriculture, transport, and logistics. That story, you'll find it in page 14 of the Business Daily. That's all we have in the Business Daily. And in the last page of the Business Daily is a story of how electric tuk-tuks have now made Kenya to be a green transport. And the tuk-tuk that are driven through electric, that use electric, are now being said to have supported the green energy transport sector that have been advocated by the president, who have been vocal on matters to do with climate change and environment. That is what we have in the Standard newspaper. We take another short break and we will be back with the Taifa Leo as we conclude with our newspaper review today. This is CBS News Kenya. Stay tuned. My name is Dennis MUNYI. We will be right back after the break.
You're watching CBS News.
Welcome to Competitive Training Institute, empowering you with in-demand skills. At Competitive Training Institute, we equip you with practical, job-ready skills that open doors both locally and internationally. Whether you're aiming to become a qualified caregiver, certified plumber, skilled automotive mechanic, or want to learn a foreign language like French, Arabic, or German, and many more, we've got the right course for you. Our hands-on training, guided by experienced instructors and aligned with market demands, ensures you're ready to compete and succeed in today's job market. We don't just train, we help you get hired. Our job placement team supports you in finding meaningful work after graduation. We are proudly accredited by NITA, ensuring high standards in all we offer. Ready to begin? Call us on 020-200-192 or 0721-223081, or email us at competitivetraining@gmail.com. Your journey starts here. Let's build your future together.
Almarai Company, in collaboration with Competitive Manpower, is urgently hiring for the following exciting roles: Grade 1 mechanics, panel beaters, refrigeration technicians, lead mechanics, diesel plant mechanics, welders, and stainless steel welders. Why apply? This is a free recruitment with no application or placement fees required. Contact us today on 0721 506627 or 0733 392180. You can also visit us at Waterseas Plaza, Kikorok Road. Alternatively, you can send an email to info@competitivemanpower.com. Apply now. Limited slots available.
You're watching CBS News.
Karibu tena mpenzi mtazamaji, shukran kwa kuweza kuandamana nasi tangia tulipoanza, na sasa tunaangazia gazeti la Taifa Leo. Kwenye gazeti langu la Taifa Leo naona wameipa kichwa shule za loa madeni. Shule za loa madeni. Na Taifa Leo, mpenzi mtazamaji wa CBS News, utaona kwenye Taifa Leo kunayo picha ya mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu za serikali Nancy Gathungu, pamoja na picha za wanafunzi wa shule ya msingi ya Vuyika Mateta, Kakamega, wakifanya mitihani chini ya miti. Na kumbuka gazeti letu linasema ni shule za loa madeni. Hapo chini ninaona pia kuna habari kuhusu Kenya 2600 ambao wanasaka kazi ya majaji na mahakimu. Na pia kuna habari kuhusu mwanamke mmoja alivyojinasua kutoka ndoa ya lazima. Na mwisho kuna habari kuhusu Al-Shabaab jinsi ilivyoteka mji wa Somalia. Na tutaweza kuangazia hili gazeti. Nikifungua ukurasa wa kwanza tunaona habari kuhusu shule ambavyo zimeweza kuzongwa na madeni tele. Na hapo jana mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu za serikali Nancy Gathongo aliweza kubaini kuwa shule nyingi za umma nchini zinakumbwa na mzigo mkubwa wa madeni kutokana na ufadhili mdogo wa serikali. Na kwenye ripoti maalum aliyoiwasilisha bungeni mbele ya kamati ya bunge la kitaifa ya uhasibu na pesa za umma, mkaguzi huo mkuu Nancy Gathungu aliweza kufichua kwamba serikali ya kitaifa haijakuwa ikitegea shule za umma fedha za kutosha. Hayo yote yanajiri huku akisema kuwa kuna madai ya kuwa wanafunzi na shule hewa zinatumiwa pesa. Hizi ni shule ambazo haziko kwenye orodha yoyote, na zinasemekana kuwa kuna mashule zaidi ya 300 ambazo zimekuwa zikipokea pesa. Na hii ni jambo kinzani na kusema kuwa kuna mashule ambayo yamekuwa hayana fedha na kuna mashule ambayo yamekuwa ikipokea fedha ambayo ni mashule ambayo hayako hata kwenye orodha yoyote. Na hiyo ni habari ambayo tuliweza kuangazia kwenye magazeti ambayo tumeweza kusoma, na pia imeweza kupewa nafasi katika gazeti la Taifa Leo. Na hapo chini pia tunamuona aliyekuwa seneta maalum Gloria Oroba akiagizwa kumlipa karani wa seneti Jeremiah Nyegenye milioni 10 kwa kumharibia jina. Na Oroba alikuwa amemlaumu Nyegenye kwa unyanyasaji wa kingono na madai ambayo karani huyo wa seneti ameikanusha kabisa. Na pigo hili la Oroba ni muda mfupi tu baada ya kutumiliwa kama seneta maalum, na sasa ametakiwa na mahakama kuweza kulipa karani wa seneti shilingi milioni 10. Vile hiyo ni habari ambayo tuliweza kuiangazia kwenye magazeti yetu, na pia inapewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo. Pia kwenye ukurasa huo tunamuona Rais William Ruto akisemekana kuwa sasa ameanza mikakati ya kujipangwa kwenye uchaguzi wa mwaka 2027. Na kwenye vikao mbalimbali vya umma tumemuona rais akisisitiza kwamba kuna mikakati ambayo ameiweka dhabiti ya miradi ya kuhakikisha kuwa kuna maendeleo, na anashirikiana na kinara wa ODM Raila Odinga ili kuweza kuona kama ataweza kujishindia uchaguzi wa mwaka wa 2027. Hiyo habari utaipata kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo kwenye ukurasa wa 2. Tukigeukia ukurasa wa 3 tunawaona Gen Z sasa wakisemekana kuwa wanaweza kumulika IEBC mpya ambayo imeweza kuteuliwa, na ni mwaka mmoja tu uliopita tangu Gen Z nchini kushindikiza rais kulegeza msimamo kuhusu mswada wa fedha. Sasa wameelekeza macho yao kwenye makamishna wapya wa tume huru ya uchaguzi na mipaka IEBC. Tume hilo ambayo inaongozwa na makamishna 7 ambao waliteuliwa wiki moja iliyopita na wameweza kuridhi shughuli za uchaguzi wa Kenya. Wameingia moja kwa moja kwenye darubini ya kizazi hiki cha Gen Z ambacho kiweza kuvamia bunge na pia kikaweza kuangusha waziri wa fedha na pia kugeuza kuwa na nguvu kuliko ya kisiasa. Hili gazeti liweza kuzungumza na Gen Z mmoja wa miaka 22 anayeitwa Cynthia, na alikuwa anasema kuwa nikimnukuu, tuliweza kuvunja serikali nzima kwa kutumia simu zetu. Sasa hii IEBC pia tutaweza kuiangalia hawa makamishna hatua kwa hatua. Timu hiyo mpya ambayo inaongozwa na mwenyekiti Erastus Odong pamoja na kamishna wengine ikiwemo Ann Njeri Nderitu pamoja na Moses Arutara miongoni mwa wengine, sasa wameingia kwenye darubini ya Gen Z ambao watakuwa wanaangalia kuhakikisha kuwa wameweza kuendesha shughuli nzima ya uchaguzi kwa njia inayofaa. Hilo ni jambo ambalo nimeweza kuangaziwa kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo kwenye ukurasa wa 3. Na tukigeukia ukurasa wa 4 tunaona habari ya jinsi mwanamke mmoja alivyoweza kujinasua baada ya kutekwa na kuozwa kwa nguvu akiwa na miaka 18, na mwanamke huyo anaeleza kwa machozi jinsi alivyotekwa na wanaume 7 na kuozwa kwa nguvu. Mwanamke huyo ambaye amebandikwa jina Mary, sio jina lake halisi, lakini kwa hili gazeti amebandikwa jina Mary, anasemekana kuwa alikamilisha masomo yake ya shule ya upili na kupelekwa na kushikwa na kupelekwa nyumbani kwa mzazi wake huko Loglorin County ya Narok, na kulazimishwa kuolewa na mwanamume asiye mfaa, lakini aliweza kujinasua kutokana na kuozwa kwake kwa nguvu akiwa na miaka 18. Hilo habari limeweza kupewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa 4. Na pia ukurasa huo tunamuona spika wa bunge la kitaifa Bwana Moses Wetangula akihimiza Wakenya hususan vijana kuweza kujitokeza kwa wingi na kujisajili kuwa wapiga kura ili kushiriki kikamilifu katika uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka wa 2027. Na Wetangula alikuwa anatoa wito huo alipokuwa anahutubia waumini katika ibada ya Family Day inayofanyika kanisa la Katoliki. Na pia tunaona habari zingine kwenye ukurasa huo kuhusu wakazi ambao wametaka KWS kunasa chui ambaye anawatatiza. Hawa ni wakazi wa eneo la Lala katika mji baada ya kushambuliwa na chui baada ya mnyama huyo kuonekana Jumamosi ya usiku. Na hilo ni jambo ambalo limeweza kuangaziwa kwenye ukurasa wa 4. Na tukigeukia ukurasa wa 5, inasemekana kuwa serikali sasa inataka DNA iweze kufanywa katika kesi ya kuchafua mtoto. Na sasa serikali imependekeza uchunguzi wa DNA katika kesi ya unyanyasaji wa watoto ambapo mwanaume ameshtakiwa ili kudhibitisha uhusiano wake na mwadhiriwa. Na sasa hilo habari limeweza kupewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo ukurasa wa 5. Na hapo pia tunamuona Nasir, gavana wa Mombasa Abdi Nasir, akisema kuwa ameweza kumuondoa mwigizaji mashuhuri Kenneth Abani kwenye baraza lake na mawaziri. Na sasa Nasir ameweza kumteua mwanasiasa Jonathan Wepekulu kushiriki kwenye wadhifa wa waziri wa michezo na vijana uliokuwa unaongozwa na Bwana Abani, ambaye pia ana sifa ya kuhudumu kwenye utumishi wa umma. Na sasa gavana huyo wa Mombasa ameweza kumteua mwanasiasa aweze kusimamia wizara hiyo. Tukigeukia ukurasa wa 6, tunaona habari kuhusu inavyosemekana tusiweze kuanika tofauti zetu kama nchi kwa wawekezaji. Na hii ni baada ya uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka 2027 ambapo kulikuwa na wito wa Kenya kushikana na kuweza kuweka juhudi ili kuhakikisha wanasiasa hawashtakiwi tena katika mahakama ya kimataifa ya ICC. Tugeukie ukurasa wa 8 ambapo tunaona sasa Urusi ikisema kuwa haitatishwa kabisa na makataa na masharti ya Rais Trump. Na Urusi sasa imesema haitishwi na makataa ya Rais Donald Trump kuwa Amerika itaziwekea vikwazo nchi zinazonunua bidhaa zake iwapo haitaridhia mwafaka wa kusitisha vita dhidi ya Ukraine. Na sasa Urusi inasema kuwa haitaweza kutishwa na makataa ya huyo rais wa Amerikani Rais Trump, ambaye amesema kuwa wataweza kuweka mambo ambayo yatazuia wao kufanya biashara na Urusi iwapo wataendeleza na vita yao. Hiyo ni jambo ambayo imeweza kuangaziwa kwenye ukurasa wa 8 wa Taifa Leo. Tukisonga mbele ni kuwa kwenye ukurasa wa 14 Tunaona jinsi ambavyo mkulima mmoja ameweza kufaidika na juhudi za uvumbuzi ambazo amelenga uzalishaji wa chakula salama nchini, na tunaweza kuona jinsi ambavyo ameangaziwa na kusemekana kuwa amekuwa akitumia mtego wa sola kudhibiti wadudu, na hili jambo limeweza kumsaidia kuweza kuongeza uzalishaji wa chakula akitumia mbinu hii ambayo anaitumia kutega kudhibiti wadudu kupitia mtego wa sola. Ni taarifa ambayo imeweza kuangaziwa kwenye ukurasa wa 14 wa Taifa Leo. Na tukimalizia kwa manyamachezo, tunaona kuhusu Kibet na Wanjala ambao wameweza kusajiliwa na La Liga, na inasemekana kuwa kusajiliwa kwa Adrian Kibet kwa klabu ya La Liga ya Celta Vigo na kuwekwa kwa kandarasi ya miaka 4 nchini ni jambo ambalo limechukuliwa na furaha na wakaazi na jamii na familia ya Adrian Kibet. Hilo ndilo ambazo limeweza kuangaziwa kwenye gazeti letu la Taifa Leo. Mpenzi mtazamaji, tutafikia hapo siku ya leo kwenye uchambuzi wa magazeti. Shukran kwa kuweza kuchagua runinga yako ya CBS na kuweza kutangamana nasi na kuweza kufuatana nasi tangia tulipoanza mpaka sasa hivi. Tuonane hapo kesho majaliwa, na kutakia kila laheri, na usiweze kubanduka kwenye mitambo yetu ya CBS News. Nimekuwa wako Dennis Munyi, kwa heri.
You're watching CBS News.
Looking for a trusted supplier for all your household hardware needs? Look no further than Competitive Hardware Limited. We provide top quality building materials including cement, all types of iron sheets, paints, PPR and PVC pipes, electric pipes, building grills, BRC and square till in various sizes. Need interior and finishing materials? We've got you covered with gypsum, gypsum rails, marine boards, ceiling boards and tanks of all sizes. For fencing, we stock barbed wire, chain link and wire mesh. And the best part, we offer free countrywide delivery with our fleet of transit trucks and pickups. Your order arrives on time, every time. Visit us in Kitengela along Namanga Highway, opposite 411 stage, or at our branches in Kitisuru and Busia. For enquiries, call us on 020-2688-888 or 0733-666632 or 0721-923248. Competitive Hardware Limited, your reliable hardware supplier.
You're watching CBS News.